How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Good. I'm really excited to talk with you today. She is just not in a good space right now. She is really,
That's not good.
yeah, she's really suffering. She especially um, is just sick about not being able to be here. How did you meet Nell?
So we met at the Blue October concert. Um, I went with my husband. He kind of introduced me to Blue October. I've been married 5 years, but we have to sit in the handicap section, and so it's kind of off from the area where the other people, were stand and everything. And um, when I met Nell, she was just such a light, and we just started talking, and I just connected with her on so many levels, and was able to just share my story. And I'm not usually so vulnerable, and it was just like talking to a friend, and it was really nice. But then she told me about how she had this podcast and how I have been through so much, and that I have been able to keep fighting through, and she wanted me to share that with the world. So that's
Yeah,
kind of.
Justin, Blue October. She loves them. She's got people in the family loving them. So what an amazing band, and that was an amazing concert.
It was. And his music hits the soul in a different way than any other artist I've ever listened to in my life.
Yeah.
Um, he's everything you're going through, he has been able to lift me up. And that's why I'm here, to get people to hopefully understand more of what happens with us people with chronic illness, because the everyday person, when you say you don't feel good or you can't do something, they're like, well, just get up and do it. But
Yeah.
you can't. You take your good days and you run with them, but then you suffer. So I just grew up in Salt Lake Valley, in a city named West Valley. It's kind of the area I grew up with, Salt Lake City. Um, and I had one brother, and um, I was, from an early age, I was struggling with all of these things. So it's not new to me to deal with these ailments and stuff. So, um, yeah.
Do you what high school did you go to? I went to Cypress. I lived off 35th South and 7800 West kind of area in West Valley.
So I was really close to that. I was actually in Cypress Boundaries, but I went to Hunter High.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's where Nell
And
went.
then, did she really?
Yeah,
I did not know that about her.
um she was born in 76. So I don't know what year that means that she graduated. So we're 2 years difference, but
I was born in '83, so probably graduated in like '96 or something.
yeah.
I graduated in '01, but
Yep, but that's
yeah,
she went there as well. It's a small world.
that's, yeah, that's crazy.
So how long have you
It's pretty.
had chronic pain? Like when did you start experiencing symptoms where you thought, you know what, something's kind of, different?
Well, I've always had pain so the diagnosis of the muscular dystrophy was when I was 6 years old. Um, I went in for just a routine, well, it's not routine, but a tonsillectomy. And they gave me anesthetic, the gas anesthesia. And I started throwing up and urinating muscle tissue after that. And my CPK levels went over 100,000, and they had me uh, admitted, and they told me, my parents, that there was no reason I should be alive right now because those levels are even unheard of. And so that's what the malignant hyperthermia is, and that's what the name is for being allergic to anesthesia. So when they diagnosed me with the muscular dystrophy, because it goes hand in hand with the anesthesia, sorry, I'm losing my words, nervous. That's how they came about with the McArdles, because some people who have that have the malignant hypothermia. And so that's when I noticed that a lot of things that were happening to me made sense, because I always had pain in my legs.
Mm-hmm.
Just really, like, it's hard to explain, but it was kind of like achy pain, but all the time. And then I would just go on with my life, because doctors said that it may progress in my later years, but it's not going to progress to the point where I won't be able to walk, because most people with muscular dystrophy are in wheelchairs, or it affects their muscles where they have a hard time breathing and everything. And I wouldn't say that I was lucky enough to not have that, but also blessed enough to have it, to get to know all of those wonderful people. I feel like they were put in my life for a reason, all of the people who have that. But so that's when my pain started. And then as I got older, in my teen years, it started getting a little harder, because that's when I wanted to try and dance, and I played basketball, and I never wanted to let any of this hold me down, because they said if I over exhilarate, then I would get worse.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to hold my life back
Mm-hmm.
because of that. So I did all those things, but then I would have to sit out. So I would have to play a minute of basketball, then sit out, and then go back in, or with dance, because the pain was just pretty intense, and it would wear me out. And that's probably what kind of led to all the other issues when you're dealing with something like that. But what I suffer from now with the chronic pain is I started as pubic symphysis, which is when you're pregnant. A lot of women have this. It's common. You hear a clicking, or when you try and walk, you can't move and stuff in the bed, because the baby or the uterus is pushing on those ligaments.
Mm-hmm.
And so the doctor told me, this is going to go away, right? When you have the baby, you're going to feel just great. And so I just kept pushing along, and after I had the baby, something wasn't right. And I couldn't get doctors to listen to me, and that's a whole nother story, but that's when it started with my pubic symphysis pain. And when they delivered the baby, they said that everything would just kind of like go back to normal. So when it did go back, it went crooked. And for years, because I kept going to doctors, but they wouldn't take an MRI, they wouldn't listen to me, because they said, oh, you should be fine, this never happened. But it was actually wearing down the joint and cartilage. And by the time I got in there, when I finally had someone do a surgery, or the MRI and then the surgery, the bone and everything was completely gone. So I was walking and using that, and the pain is just excruciating. I mean, you would feel like someone was just continuously stabbing you over and over and over. And I was living with that, and I still am living with that. But that's where the main chronic pain started, and that was probably 17 years ago when my son was born, is when that pain started. And so with the muscular dystrophy hand in hand with that, I was already weak with my legs.
Mm-hmm.
Now you put your pelvis onto it. Now you put your pubic bone being broken onto that. And it's hard to function. Like, it's just so hard.
Was he in
So,
bed?
yeah,
Was he in
that's kind of
bed a lot at that point? I mean, was you how disabling?
So what it's more disabling now than it was then, because, well, I take that back. It was very, very painful, but I was still able to move and walk. And then when I was in school, I decided I was going to do hair school, because I just want to do esthetician. And I was just in the beginning of it. And then I heard a snap when I was standing doing someone's hair. And that's when I knew I had pushed too far. And that's kind of just when my whole world changed. Because I had been begging doctors to listen to me, but they weren't, and I never stopped fighting. Then I finally found a surgeon who would actually look at my issue, because what I have is so rare, you can't even find anybody who has it. Maybe, like the doctor said, he's never worked on anybody who's had the shattered pubic bone from childbirth.
Mm-hmm. I've never heard of that.
So,
yeah, wow.
Yeah, so he said I could treat it as if it was shattered from like an accident, like an automobile accident. The anatomy is the same. So I trusted him, and I went into surgery, and that's when he's like, everything was just gone. He put in a plate. I have a plate and 6 to 8 screws on the front, and I thought, okay, I can get through this surgery. I had to relearn to walk. I had to be down for like 6 months. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk, obviously, after that. And when I went back, I said, I still have the pain. I still have the pain. And he's like, well, we did the surgery. He took x-rays. He's like, just give it time, give it time. I said, no, something is wrong. Something is wrong. And it took probably 6 to 8 months for him to say, okay. He finally told me, well, your surgery didn't fuse. Your bones won't fuse. Because the point of it is, they took a bone out of my hip to use it to there, and you're supposed to fuse, and it's supposed to grow, and everything's just supposed to create one thing. It just wouldn't take on me. So he said, well, we could try this. Let's put you back in. We can take all the hardware back out, put it back in. We could try a different bone, and let's also put in 2 bolts in your back and your SI joint to kind of just stabilize it so there's no movement. And so I said, okay, will I be able to function and everything with the movement in my back? And he's like, yeah, it will be fine. So I trusted him again. I went in, had that surgery. This time I went into I don't want to say senior center, but it's like one of those home places where rehab places.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was there for weeks, and because I wasn't allowed to get up to go to the bathroom, I wasn't allowed to walk, I wasn't allowed to do anything. They just wanted to keep me still, and I was in excruciating pain, and I said, I've got to do this. I mean, there's times that I told my husband, I said, I just don't want to do this anymore. I just want to give up. Like, what is the point? Like, this is so hard. Oh. But I just kept hoping that it was going to work, right? You have hope that you do surgery, you're going to fix the problem.
Yeah.
And so then I went back, and he said, it didn't fuse again. Because you have to wait so many months to see if your bone's going to grow. And I felt, and at this point I was even having more pain because of this stupid bolt they put in my back. So not only was I having the pain here, but now they created a new problem where it's so hard to bend over. It's so hard to do anything. And I just, sorry, my dog sees that I'm crying. So she's
oh, service dog, yeah.
Yeah, she's a good girl. So at that point, when everything was just like, I'm all, well, then what do I do now? You go to the health professionals for answers, and you just like, there's nothing I could do. So at that point, I'm just like, okay, so what do I do with my life? I've got 8 kids, you know, I've got 3 of my own, I've got 5 stepdaughters. I just got married. Like, I just got married right when the surgery happened. New, it was a very second marriage, but he's been so amazing for all of it. But my life was just starting this new chapter.
Yeah.
And that's a lot for someone to sign up for, not only him, but for the girls,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
my kids not seeing their mom be normal. So that's when I went into a deep depression. And I've always suffered from depression, but that was my really hard breaking point. So that's kind of where the chronic pain started. That's what I deal with every day. It's just a battle every day, never knowing if I can walk well. I used to not be able to roll over in bed. Like, sometimes I get stuck and my husband still has to help me if I can't get pulled up. But sometimes it just locks. And it's just a really miserable life. But I've come to realize that this is my life and I've got to make the best of it. And I have so many people that have been here for me and helped me through it. And thankful that I went through it, but I'm also, it's hard. Like, you never want to go through the pain, but it gives you a different understanding for people. And I've always suffered with pain, but this was just a new level. And my pain tolerance was pretty good, but living with it excruciating every day it's hard.
I'm so sorry. When you talk, I just have like flashbacks and memories of things that Nell's gone through, and we have just such a similar story that I have empathy for you and your husband, and give our love to him. Yeah, it takes a team for sure, right? Of what you go through behind the scenes and things, and you have the hardware still in you, even though the bone part didn't take. Is that?
So they left the hardware in there because they said it's doing some good, better than no good, and there's no reason to take it out. So when he did do the MRI to check on it, the screws are already loosening. So because there's nothing holding them in because the bone's not there. So I don't know how long it's going to last. So I just try not to think about it.
Wow.
But yeah, and then I asked if they could just take the bolts out in the back because I can't move very well.
Yeah.
And my doctor said that it would leave big holes, and even though it would grow, it would be like scar tissue, it would be painful, and it just, like I said, would cause more problems than good. So I haven't gone that route yet. It's in the back of my mind to get the hardware out, but I don't want to create more problems because I think I've become in a routine. I'm accustomed to this pain that at least I know what it is. I know how to function, which I don't function because I'm in bed 90% of my life, but it's just something that's familiar now. And I'm scared to open that door again because of all the trauma that it put me through, and feeling that the doctors didn't care. Like, I felt like a guinea pig and then just went on my way because it didn't work.
I see a lot of the depression I've seen come on because of the grief and guilt. The grief guilt combination can just be brutal. Did you feel a lot of grief with the life changes, and then guilty of like, oh, I'm not having the best attitude about my life right now, and I'm feeling guilty because I should have a better attitude, or I should be more grateful, and then you're hard on yourself. I mean, have you experienced that?
Oh, definitely. And that's a daily battle. I think I still go through that. I mean, the grief of feeling like I was that the mom who could take care of my family and be the housewife and take care of things and make sure everyone was taken care of, to being the one that everyone had to take care of for the longest time. And the guilt, that's what I still deal with all the time, because I feel so guilty that I gave, well, I mean, I didn't have a choice, but I feel guilty that my kids aren't growing up with a mom who isn't suffering, who isn't in pain, who can't do the normal things that you see other moms doing. The only thing I have to offer is my heart and my love and my nurturing, and I've had to learn to accept that that's the best I can do right now. And I do small things now around the house. You know, I find things that make me feel a little more fulfilled. But the guilt is just so tremendous. To have my kids see me hurting and see me in pain, and them offering to help me when I should be taking care of them. That's the hard part. And family who helps me. You know, I can't drive further than like 5 minutes or I start locking up. So it's just feeling guilty to ask for help all the time, feeling guilty for having my husband do more than the average husband does. There is so much guilt, so much.
Do you feel, has it impacted like your self-worth of what you feel worthy of, and like your self-esteem?
And it definitely has, and that's where I struggled, because like I said, I already had depression. It's just I have a chemical imbalance. I've had it since I was younger, from other things that I've went through, and feeling like I'm not able to be the person that I want to be has made me feel like, why am I here? Why am I alive? You know, and that's where I struggled. And, you know, I have taken a handful of pills, and I have been hospitalized. And that's really, really hard for me to open up and say, but nothing was working. Like I was on new depression meds all the time. Nothing was working. Nothing was making me feel good. And I hated life. I hated everything. I just didn't want to be here anymore. And the only thing that kept me going was those kids. And when I was stopped, when I went to go take the handful of pills, and I was stopped, and everything got, you know, my husband walked in and took them, and I didn't got them out of my mouth. You know, saved my life. I'm so grateful, because that was my wake-up call. You know, that no matter what I'm going through, no matter what all this stuff is, like, I've got to find purpose. I've got to figure this out. I have people who love me, and I never felt like people cared or people loved me because of all of this. I felt like a burden, and I needed to find a way, and that's where I found ketamine treatment. And those are what saved my life, and I still continue to do them as maintenance, and I've never been having more of a clear head. Like, I still have to talk myself out of some things, but it's just, I'm so grateful for that medicine. Did I answer your question?
No, my mind is just racing with what I've gone through with Nell, and that she's also shared. I appreciate your courage in sharing as well. Nell has shared how she wasn't just suicidal, but she had even had a letter written out, a goodbye letter. There's a degree in which she shared publicly. Of course, you know, you can only imagine what her and I have gone through together when she was in that state. very traumatizing, very sobering. I don't know if your husband can relate with this, but
Yeah.
you know, sometimes life isn't. Sometimes you, even with the best judgment, uh, feel like that there's really not a right decision, right? Do you intervene? Do you try to stop, and then that could make it worse, and they don't obviously want you to stop. Do you call a suicide hotline, and is that going to make it worse? Like, why would you do? You know, it just,
Yeah.
or do you just let them do it and be like, okay? I mean, it's what do you even do, right? It just doesn't seem like a thing that
Yeah.
anybody can go away from thinking, well, I made the right decision, you know, and so that's why I think part of the vulnerability and the part of the authenticity comes in is, you know, we see more and more people talk about um, all these things, and sometimes they'll include what they've gone through and their stories related to depression and suicide and grief, and that's sometimes the deepest pain, right?
Yeah.
And it's sobering um, to learn not just the suicide rate and how high it is, and among the chronic pain community, but how common it is for people that you think,
Heartbreaking.
oh yeah, it's very common for people to go through that and be really close, and sometimes you can't tell. So I'm really glad that we're talking about it. And
And I I just want people to know that it's okay to say I have a problem, and it's okay to get help, and you've got to be your best advocate. Yeah, sure, my husband was there, he helped me, he called them, but I had to put in the work. You
yeah,
know, I had to go through all the classes. I had to go through the treatments of ketamine. Like, ketamine's just not a medicine that just makes you feel better. Like,
mm-hmm,
I had to relive all my trauma, and it was, in a safer place for me to do so, but your body still feels it. And I'm grateful for that because, I tried to do years of therapy and I could never open up, or my body just wouldn't allow me to go to those places. And so I just want people to know that there is answers, there is something out there for everyone, and to not give up, because it's just not a one shot for all. You've got to find what works for you. I had a guide sit with me to kind of help me through it. And so they're there because when you're going under, you're not completely asleep, but when the medicine starts to work, you just feel like to me, it feels like you're just floating in your head. And so to me, I feel like you have all these memories that are just kind of there. And sometimes it's just like, well, grab it. And then you're focusing on that. And so, but then when you're feeling that, your body is also feeling that. And that's when the guide was there, would help me bring me down from. So, because I was working on, my chronic pain,
mm,
sexual assault, things of that matter. And so in that moment, yeah, I feel like I'm reliving it, but they talk you down and then you go into a different area. Um, it's only like a 45-minute process. It sounds like it could be really hard, but some of it also is really peaceful, and some of it you just don't really care because you're just in that thing. And that's why I say it's so good to work through things right now, because even though your body's feeling those things, you're not actually feeling those things like as if you were in reality in that moment, like, from years of therapy, talking about it and stuff. And I feel like my body feels it the first couple of days. Like, it, it can tell that I've been through stuff, but also as soon as I wake up, I've had my pain gone. I've had like a reset in my brain where I start being able to laugh, or um, just be in a clear state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day I would kind of feel tired and fatigued because I went through all those emotions without really going through those emotions. Look, I went through those emotions, but not like in the sense that you do when you go to traditional therapy. And so it takes me about 3 days. And then after that, I feel great. I feel motivated. I feel happy. I feel like I can conquer the world. And for me, it usually lasts 3 to 6 months. And that's when I go back and get my refresh. If I can tell that things are, you had mentioned that you're not always in your right mind when you're in that depression state. So when I feel like that's starting to come on again, that's when I need another ketamine treatment because I'm not able to rationalize. And so sometimes I think that something that's not really bad is bad. And so that's when I go back to the ketamine because it helps me to have a clear brain. I don't know how to explain it other than that. Those thoughts, those negative thoughts just aren't there anymore. It's like it resets it and you're just able to function. And I did have to go through the initial 6 to 8 treatments.
Mm-hmm.
So it is an investment. It is something that, but it works. And I only do some people don't even need the maintenance. I choose to do it because I know my body so well now, and I know that it's not me, it's the chemicals and everything, and it's time to get a reset. And that's the best thing I can just say is it's a reset for your body. I mean, to wake up with no pain sometime after some of my treatments, it doesn't last forever, but the pain relief, it just, because it stimulates your brain to think that, because most of the pain comes from your brain and telling your nerves, and that kind of just stops that. And so, I don't know, it helps, but it isn't, that's why I said it's not easy, because you're going through the steps of recovery.
Yeah.
And so, that's how I feel anyways. I'm not sure how I think everybody's different. But that's kind of how I go through it. Like the first couple of days, I'm really tired and I'm fatigued because I went through all of that in the system, and then I'm feeling great, and then I'm being able to function. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah, and you know, if you're sitting next to someone who's in ketamine, I mean, it's not like they're out under surgery, but they're also not. The closest thing is it's almost like it seems like they're kind of in a sleepy state, but you're not in a sleepy dream state. You're actually more like you're aware, right? I mean, there's some partial disassociation that's happening that I've never had, right? I've just had full anesthesia. I've never had any partial like that. But it was surprising how aware Nell was, and I mean, it's not like you can go and take a bathroom break and them not be aware of it, right? I mean, you're very much aware and present and got things going on. It's not like you're just having a sleep.
You're awake. I choose to close my eyes and kind of just meditate and zone out. But yeah, like if you hear any sounds, like it's just you hear it and you know what's going on. And if someone talks to you, you hear it, but it's kind of just slow, and it's just everything's just calm. And yeah, it's such an experience, and it's so hard to explain, but it's so worth it. And so I just know so many people who have said that medicine doesn't work for them. Inpatient hasn't worked for them. They're still suffering, and I was there for 37 years, 38 years, and I found the ketamine probably 2.5 years ago, and that's when my life, I felt free.
Yeah.
So I just say if you have anything you suffer from, chronic pain, migraine, trauma, depression, anxiety, anything that's debilitating to you, I would definitely look into it because it helps me so much. So
Yeah, and you can you can do troches or nasal ketamine. So instead of it being just all felt infusion, there's that available. I know that with Nell, it certainly has been helpful. I think other people are may differ in terms of how much they feel like it helped, but I know that it's absolutely part of what's helped her quality of life. So yeah,
that
for
is
those
awesome.
watching this, if that's something that interests you, even if you need a fly-in, it's worth the investment. Rita and William and the team in Restorative Health in Utah, go check them out and tell them that Spoonful and Christine Assay sent them.
AC, yeah.
AC. I'm sorry. I don't know why I
It's
said
okay.
AC. Um,
Definitely.
what's day-to-day life for you right now? You said about 90% of the time you're in
Yep.
in bed. I mean, I know that we experience that, and that's not like an over exaggeration, and that's part of the guilt and this and it, right? Um,
My day-to-day life, um, I've gotten my body to where, okay, so I use a scooter if I have to go to doctor appointments or anything that I have to walk more than like 10 steps. So for me to get out of the house or anything, I do have my access to my wheelchair. Well, it's a scooter. Um, my day-to-day life is I usually wake up. I have to take my medication. Um, I've gotten to the place where I'm able to take my son to school, and then that just wears me out and wipes me out. So I come back home. I have to lay down um, because the pain's just so intense. And you do anything, and you hurt, and that gives me about a few. I don't know. He goes school about 9 next, and then I have to pick him up at 3. So that gives me 6 hours to rest, and I still don't have. I, no matter any type of rest, the pain just doesn't go away. Um, so it's a very isolating life. Um, and then my husband comes home. He usually has time to cook dinner, unless I have a crock pot meal I can just throw in if I'm able to get to the kitchen. Some days I don't get to the kitchen. Some days I don't get to eat because I can't even get to the kitchen to make me a sandwich or anything. So I have a lot of days where I just don't eat. So I've started drinking protein shakes just to get some nutrients in. And um, and then when it's time to go to bed, I'm in so much pain I can't sleep. I'm up all night tossing and turning. Um, I can't really even sit during the day because when I'm sitting like this, like you probably tell, like I keep adjusting
yeah,
myself
yeah, I feel bad.
because
We won't spend too much more time. I know that.
it's
Yeah.
okay. It's just the pubic bone, like everything. You just sit on it. You have to adjust it, and so that's why I can no longer work. I can't even
Mm-hmm.
work a desk job because I have to rotate so much, and then I have to lay down. So my life is sitting, laying, adjusting, um, and then doing it all over again. But most of it is laying and adjusting in bed, and that's where a lot of the guilt comes in because I I don't know, maybe I feel like people will look at me and think I'm lazy or I sleep all day, and it's really hard because most of the time I'm just in my room and um, because I'm not gonna say I'm perfect because I still have my depression and I get really lonely. And I've lost a lot of friends because they just don't want to deal with somebody who has chronic pain. But I do have some good friends that have been there and have truly helped me. But day-to-day life is hard. I some days I can get out here and I'll fold some laundry, sit on the couch. So I try to do things that keep me feeling like I'm still helping the family out, but I don't feel like I'm doing enough. And it's just a lot of guilt. Like I just really want to be there are times I just want to be the wife that takes care of her husband, and my husband takes care of me a lot. So um, he's really a good man, and but I'm learning to accept it, and I'm finding things around it. I just want to mention that I found like a meal service that everything is like prepared for you, and you just put it in the crock pot. It's like called Beehive Meals, and that has made me feel so much better about myself because I'm preparing something. Like I'm putting something in, and I'm having dinner ready, and that's such a huge win for me because I couldn't do any of that. So those are like, you just have to find the little things that make you feel like, wow, I did it, you know? And that's kind of my day-to-day life, is just trying to be better than the next day, just keep pushing. And I help my kids with homework and stuff, sometimes just in bed or just sitting on a chair. And day-to-day can be hard, I'm not gonna lie. I'm still trying to figure it out.
With everything that you and people that are living with these various conditions, go through, and that's the whole concept of the Spoonie theory. There's only so much that you've got, but you talk about not sleeping and exhaustion. Whether you have a spoon or not, whether you're rested or exhausted or not, it takes effort to do anything that you need to do to maintain your health, whether that is not just doing things with relationships or physical activity, trying to get a little bit of that, but even just like what we've talked about with the mental and emotional, right? I mean, challenging ourselves sometimes, or trying to just improve all the things that have to do with just being human and just trying to better ourselves. What are some of the things that you go through and feel when you're aware of that and you want that, and you are taking responsibility for that, all the normal things, but you're just the energy's not there? What do you do? You just, is that the moment? I mean, because to me, that's the place where people just feel the despair, right? The depression, and just be like, forget it. I mean, I don't even have energy to do these bare minimum things that I want to do to be at least healthy as I can be. My heart just breaks for that. Can you relate with that?
100%. The hardest part is when you tell somebody, I just don't feel good. And like you said, with your wife, she's had to miss some pretty big moments in your kid's life and family life. And that wears on you. I mean, you feel a huge thing of grief and guilt, and you're missing out. But at the same time, you get to a place where you know your body, and you have to be your advocate, and you have to be able to say, I just can't do it. And that was really hard for me in the beginning. Like I cried a lot every time I would have to say, no, I can't go to this, or I'm sorry, I can't sit and play games anymore. I got to go lay down. And it's heartbreaking. And you feel like no one understands, but it comes to a point where if you start being able to tell people what you're going through, what you're doing, I think people are more understanding than we give them credit for. I think people do want to understand, and I think I am truly blessed with an amazing family that has supported me through all of this. And for a long time, I would just go in the bedroom and I would just lay there and cry. Now I realize this is my life. I need to find joy in it. So I found some hobbies. I've taken up playing like a Nintendo Switch, and I play with community there, or I play games, and that's just kind of like my me time. So if I'm in there doing absolutely nothing because of the pain, well, maybe I can just lay there and be doing video games. Or now I'm like taking up journaling pages, maybe not scrapbooking at a desk like other people, but maybe I can put a few things on a page while I'm in bed.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wears me out, then I just take a break and I rest. I'm thankful for social media because I can access people like this. I mean, normally I wouldn't be able to go out and meet people. So I get to meet a community online and find other people who are just like me. And so I just want to look for the glass half full than the glass half empty. Like I have to look at the positive. I have to look at, hey, you got your son to school today. You can rest. You're okay. It's okay to just do nothing for the rest of the day just because you did that. That's a big win. I couldn't do that for the longest time. Sometimes I am in so much pain that I don't do anything. I just lay there. And then I give myself, I say, you're allowed to go to sleep. Sleep through the pain, you know? You're allowed to just try to just rest and not feel that guilt. And the hard thing is, then I have good days where, you know, like you saw me at the Blue October concert. I was in my wheelchair. I got to go to that. But then I know I'm going to suffer for a week. So I'm going to be down in bed again. But I look forward to those little moments I have with my family, or I look forward to those little moments that I get to do something that maybe is a glimpse of what I used to do and enjoy. And that's what makes it worth it for me. You know, that's what living is to me now. And I am in a place where I want to live. I want to continue to help people. I want to be here for my kids and my grandkids and my family. And I have so much to offer, even though it's not a physical aspect of offering, because I am me and I have so much love to give. So that's what I have to keep reminding myself. You know what your body limits are. You know if something's wrong. And if I would have listened to doctors, I would have just been pushed aside and just told that nothing was wrong. So I just emphasize that you have to be your biggest advocate. You know when something's wrong. You know what's best for your body. That comes with doctors, that comes with people who are in your life. You know your limits. You know what you need to be doing to be able to function. So yeah, give yourself grace. Like, give yourself the permission to rest. Give yourself the permission to do what you need to do so you can enjoy life. Because if you're constantly worrying what other people think, which has been one of my biggest downfalls my entire life, always worrying what people think, and you're just your expectations are too high. So you need lower expectations, like you said, and you just got to live in the best of your ability and be okay with it and enjoy life.